I was nurtured. I was raised by kindness. I try really hard in the relationships that I make to show a fraction of that kindness. I ask myself, am I still enjoying this? At the highest level, am I still enjoying it? And for now, the answer is still yes.
Welcome, everyone. So excited for you to tune in today. We have Jason Allen of Offseason here in studio for this episode. A fellow Arizonan.
That's right.
Native, a long time local.
Native. Yep. Born and raised.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
So basically, we're just going to talk all things Arizona, and then
that's right.
We'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
Excited to have you, dude. And we've connected. We'll maybe discover that in this conversation connecting through my previous company, Keep Nature Wild, LinkedIn, and finally our
stars finally aligned, right?
So
yeah,
pumped.
Yeah, likewise.
So talk to me about you have this company you started about a year ago.
Yeah.
Before we get into kind of the details of Offseason, what are some things that really have driven you to this point to want to start your own thing, to want to own your own business and run your own company? What are some of those core motivations that you have to getting to this point?
Yeah, I think that's a really cool way to start. And part of the reason I think it's so cool is because, my primary answer to that question, when I think about, especially the question, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why is it important? Why was it important for me to kind of take that leap, so to speak? The biggest answer that I have is that I had to, right? It's kind of who I am. It's who I have been for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You go back to grade school, elementary school, I was the kid who was, always wanting to start the lemonade stand. And then you move into junior high and I became the kid who was basically making money flipping iPods off of Craigslist. I won't call it a business, but I would buy an iPod or two a week and I'd sell an iPod or two a week. And I was making $10-20 on each one. And I would meet these, a lot of times, grown adults and on street corners, and I'd be buying iPods in cash and I'd be flipping them.
That's awesome.
And so, you just kind of carry that same mentality through high school and then college and now here. And the more recent answer to that question of, why now, is just kind of hit a point in my career and in my life where it just felt like, again, I have to, and I don't think that I would be able to really get psyched about another job unless I take this leap now and at least give it a shot, right? Like if it fails, it fails, but there is no job description out there that's going to make me excited to wake up and go to work unless I have given this a proper shot at this point in my life.
Totally.
So that's kind of what led to the jumping off point, so to speak, of Offseason conceptually existing.
Yeah. Just that drive, that's just how you operate. I feel you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're right where you need to be, where you should be.
Yeah.
What are some companies or like, were there things when you were younger or even now that really you see as like, inspiration, or like, oh yeah, that's like, are your parents entrepreneurs, or your family that are entrepreneurs? Like, is there something that really spurred that early on, or just naturally something you were drawn to?
Yeah, surprisingly, my parents are not entrepreneurs. My dad technically is. He's an attorney, so he owns his own business. My mom taught elementary school and was a substitute teacher my whole life. But I think really what drove it is I was just, and take this with a grain of salt, I was born with like this innate sense of competition, right? I'm a very, very competitive person. And that's something that defines a lot of my personality, is I take everything just a little bit more personally, and I I want to succeed in ways that people that don't have that competitive drive don't necessarily care to succeed in, or don't need to check those boxes to feel successful. And so I think that's really where it comes from, is just that competitive fire that for some reason I was born with.
Yeah.
And then as well as, growing up, I had plenty of examples of people whose parents own their own businesses or had, done entrepreneurial things in their past, and just being able to see the flexibility that they had, especially as it related to their kids. That me now being a young father, I have two young kids at home. It's something that was impressed upon me as a young age. And then now that I have kids of my own, it's like, man, I want that so much more. I want my kids' friends to be the friends that come to our house and think, man, why is their dad home on Tuesday at 3:00 in the afternoon?
Totally.
Why can he take us out to do this thing on, Friday at 11 a.m. when my dad is at work?
Yeah.
So that, again, like it's that competitive nature to me, but it's also, my kids have also been like this huge, more recent push into that, to be able to, maximize that time with them.
Totally. How old are your kids?
Yeah, so I have a boy who'll turn 3 in about a week and a half.
Nice. And
then a baby girl that just turned 1 somehow.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm hoping that she stops at 1 and that she's just going to be 1 forever.
Yeah,
but
I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, so I'm in the
nice.
thick of
it,
just
right there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting times for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you have a business partner.
I do.
In Offseason. Mm-hmm. What informed that decision to partner with him?
His name's Tyler. He lives up in Utah, in Heber in Utah, if you're familiar with it. Tyler and I met in school up at BYU. We both did the same program, majored in the same program at BYU. And really, during school, we just got along really well, right? It was just one of those things where we got put into a group early on, learned to work together really early on, and saw that our personalities, for one, there was a really, really good synergy of personalities.
Yeah.
And throughout school, we were those two kind of entrepreneurs, right? That we're always throwing ideas at each other. We're always, taking time outside of class to say, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that?
Yeah.
And stars never really aligned. We never really found anything that worked out during school. But I think in the back of both of our minds, there was always like, hey, if there's a good opportunity, then like he's one of the first people I'm going to go to with it.
Totally. And
so that's kind of how it worked is, about a year ago right now, I was in Utah for an event, and it was kind of on my mind, like, hey, I'm wanting to kind of make this leap or take this chance. And we got together and I kind of told him, and at that point, what Offseason was, just to give a little background, at that point, Offseason didn't exist. What was on my mind was the entrepreneurship through acquisition path. So what was on my mind is, let's go buy a business.
Totally.
And so that's what I approached him about almost a year ago, like right now.
Yeah.
Just said, hey, I don't know how things are going for you at work, but here's how things are going for me at work. They're great, but, little asterisk there. And I've been doing a ton of research on this acquisition, entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I think I'm going to want to, I think I'm thinking about doing it. And if I did, would you want to kind of partner up and try and do it with me? And he almost immediately said, yeah, like, I think he was in a similar position at work where he loved his job. But still had that tug,
Totally.
And so, that really what drove it was just, like I said, that relationship that we'd fostered in college.
Yeah.
And just knowing that, like, this is somebody who I can work really well with. This is someone who the synergies are there, personality wise. Our skill sets at this point had kind of diverged enough that we were bringing different things to the table.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think ultimately what has made the partnership so successful over the last year, and like the reason that we're 12 months into it or however long we are into it and still enjoy what we're doing, even though we're not uber successful by any means at this point, is that we value a lot of the same things, and our priorities are in the same order.
Yeah.
which I think are two things that partnerships often get wrong just because of the initial excitement around, oh yeah, let's do something together that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
And then you get a month or two into it and you're like, my top value is this and yours is this, and my priority is this and yours is that.
Yeah.
And we haven't had that. Everything, all our lists of values and priorities are very much aligned.
That's huge.
Which has been huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you start building out Offseason and acquiring businesses and building out your team, where are there, I guess even stepping back further, have you guys formalized like core values or kind of your strategy on paper, or are there things that you just know, like, here's what we want to do, here's how we want to operate, are there like tangible things that you're checking off as you're going into your acquisition strategy or your team building strategy, or things that you guys just kind of innately know, hey, this is the type of business, this is the type of team we want to build?
Yeah, great question. So kind of the tagline for Offseason, if you will, is that Offseason is building a portfolio of profitable businesses run by good people. And we try and focus as much as possible on those last two words, right? The good people aspect of it. Because I think that, a lot of times when you're looking at people who are doing similar things to what we're trying to do, what we're building, as far as building a portfolio of different businesses, diverse businesses, a lot of times their focus is on really heavily on the numbers or on the industry or on, X, Y, and Z. They're very important, right? Don't get me wrong.
Totally.
But I think what makes us unique right now is that we are hyper focused on that good people aspect. And I think both Tyler and I would agree that if the numbers at the end of the day, if the money at the end of the day that we make or the Offseason is worth, 10, 15, however many years down the road, if that number has to get significantly smaller so that we can accomplish our goal of working with good people, really good people, that is a trade-off that we'll make 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And that naturally will bring up the question, okay, what is a good person, right? And that's where we get into some of the core values that maybe we have defined.
Yeah.
And a lot of those relate back to sports. Obviously, Offseason, the name itself comes from sports, and a lot of the brand that we're building around Offseason and the community that we're hoping to kind of create around Offseason is sports centric or ideals that come from sports. And so some of the things that we're looking for, as it relates to what is a good person, that we've kind of defined, like one of our big values is that consistent beats lucky, right? Consistency is the key. And, time and time again, I've seen that the people who are dedicated and consistent win in the end.
Yeah.
And you think about your sports heroes, if you have them, like all those guys, the dedication and consistency, that's what got them to the top, right? Lucky, there's a lot of lucky high school athletes born with, different genetics that made them super athletes, whatever. You go to the top of the top professional athletes across the board, and it's consistency and dedication.
I didn't know we were going to talk about DeAndre Ayton in this.
The DA word. Oh man, let's not talk about him too much. That'll bring the mood down, and the lights will probably start flickering.
No doubt.
But so that's one of them, right? Consistent beats lucky all the time. Another one that I really like that we have written down is shoot on Saturdays. And what that goes to is when I was growing up playing basketball a lot, I was the kid that Saturday mornings I did yard work and then I picked up my basketball and I was shooting. And it doesn't mean that we're looking for people who are willing to work weekends. Yeah. Because that's not it. We're looking for people who enjoy the monotony of building so much that they're willing to do those monotonous tasks and they find fulfillment in the monotonous tasks, even during times where there are other opportunities to be had. Yeah. So those are kind of two of the
putting in those reps for
yeah,
sure. That's
yeah, exactly.
huge.
Exactly. And those, I mean, those correlate in a lot of ways. And we have others.
For sure.
And on our website, we have a few more listed. And as far as, what makes a good person, what makes a future off-season team member.
Yeah, that's dope.
And, we've tried to stay away from making those values like boring, if so to speak, right? We're not going to talk about, we want a trustworthy person and a hard worker. Like we want our values to be things that people can read and either relate to or not relate to.
Yeah, totally.
So.
No, I love that. I think it's so important to define what those things are and really align towards people that
exactly.
quickly. Like,
exactly.
Is this like, do you embody this or not?
Yeah.
And it's like, not that makes them a bad person or a good or like
right.
as far as like whatever, but like for your
core
business
for what we're
and what
building
you're trying
and
to
for
build,
what we're
like,
trying to create. Exactly.
You're gonna find people that align and people that don't, and try to get more of the people that align.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, when you, again, back to that tagline of good people, I think that the opposite of that is not necessarily bad people, right? It's good fit people, right? It's the right people, as opposed to, good versus evil or anything cliche like that. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you grew up playing sport? You play basketball or other sports, or?
Yeah, I mean, I played every sport in the book until a certain age, and then I kind of admitted to myself that basketball was my first and only love at that point. And I have played a lot of basketball in my life. I've gotten a lot of shots up.
Nice.
I have dribbled cracks in many a ball, and basketball remains. I mean, I have my wife and my kids now, so I won't say anything too blasphemous, but basketball remains towards the top of my loves list. For sure. No doubt about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
What, as you're building, what are the things you look for in a business that you're looking to acquire, to add to the portfolio, to round things out, or just continue to expand? You're in year 2 of the business, but like what do you have a roadmap of things you'd like to add, or are you kind of looking for right opportunity, right business? Like,
yeah, great question. And I think one that's really relevant to anyone who may have considered the acquisition path before, right? Because there's all kinds of advice on, you should go after the industry the best, or you should go after this or that. And we kind of struggled with that for probably the first 8 to 10 months, right? Struggled with, what is the vision here? What are we actually building? Like, because we pivoted from let's buy a business to let's create a portfolio, it was an inflection point of what the heck does that mean, right? How do we do that? Especially because neither of us are coming with a decades-long background in any particular industry. I think if we'd been in the restaurant space for 20 years, it's pretty easy to understand you're going to build a hospitality portfolio. And so we decided fairly recently, within the last few months, that we don't want to rewrite the book on anything at the highest level, right, at the organizational level of Offseason. And so what we're focused on right now is what we're looking to kind of add to the portfolio over the next 12 to 24 months are positive cash flowing service-based businesses.
Nice.
Right? Both digital and physical services. So digital, you're talking about different agencies, a SEO agency or an ad agency or a creative agency or whatever. And then on the physical service side, you think home service companies, a car detail shop or a home cleaning service or a window washing service, both of which play really well together when you're able to find the right synergies between the two. I mean, obviously, a home service business needs business that a digital marketing agency can hopefully provide to it. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is we're evaluating different opportunities in both of those spaces kind of simultaneously. And the thought process is if we can find the right home service industry or professional service industry to buy or build in, and then we can complement that with the necessary digital services to be growing a business over here and then creating a business over here that now has this proof of concept, so to speak, where, hey, we can get this many leads, we can generate this much business for a window washing company.
Totally.
And now we're building a separate business on this side that can go and fly on its own, so to speak. They can go do the same for a dozen window washing companies or 100. And everyone wins in that scenario. And being able to kind of separate those two entities also lends itself really well to our mission and our vision of working with good people, because we've now created two separate opportunities where we can find partners and team members and give opportunities to people who may not have had as good or as positive of an opportunity as what we can now provide because of the fact that we're trying to separate but find synergy in the ways that's most appropriate. So to speak.
Wherever there can be overlap in your processes and your training and your all the things that do make sense to have overlap, and then I think that's
exactly.
That's super cool. What do you feel like are the businesses, your partners in Utah, you're here, do you feel like they're businesses that you want to be local to those markets, or how are you guys thinking about that?
So we're the bad news is I'm an Arizona boy and he's a Utah boy, and neither one of us wants to compromise on that, right? Because we both, probably rightfully so, we both think that our home states are better than the other. But at the same time, the good news with that is it creates an opportunity where we know we do want to focus on our home states.
Totally.
And because there's so many great opportunities and so many great people across those two states that have relationships across state lines, right? You talk to anyone in Utah
as well.
Exactly, right?
A lot of the last podcast was a dude up in Utah, Sean Holiday. And for sure.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily a problem. And, I'd say it's, actually the opposite, right? It provides an opportunity. So we definitely do not want to be building remote only businesses. And we also don't necessarily want to be investing in, when you're talking about like physical service businesses where it's location based, those will all start and end in Arizona and Utah. Whether they expand outside of that, who's to say?
For sure.
But all of them will be Utah and Arizona focused, and the people that we're focused on kind of providing opportunities for. I won't put a geographic limit on it ever, but I will say, when we're looking for people, it's in Utah, it's in Arizona.
Totally.
And I just think that, well, I mean, we could go on and on about the state of Utah and the state of Arizona and how each of them are growing in different ways, and the people within them and the values and everything and the culture that the states themselves
100%.
provide. But I just think that my overall thought is that both Utah and Arizona are going to provide a competitive advantage from a people perspective to any business that we start or acquire.
No, I think that absolutely is very true. What's like the mindset of you and your partner, that is pushing you to grow more, to have, you have 3 businesses now. Like, is there, you talked about that competitive, nature, the opportunity. I consume a ton of content, and there's this huge opportunity of the acquisition, portfolio, and like all these retirees and opportunities there. And are there things that the two of you share that is a mindset of like, this is like, we want to go fast, we want to operate, or like, how are you navigating your growth and your strategy for growth?
Yeah. There's definitely like a mini tug of war there, because I think I come with the perspective of the gas always has further down to be pushed, right? The floor is never going to be reached.
Yeah.
And Tyler is really good at reining that in and saying, this current business that we're operating is nowhere near the point where we could comfortably add anything else to this portfolio unless boxes X, Y, and Z are checked first. Yeah. And so it's a tug of war, but it's also a really good balance of power between it brings up really good conversations, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
How fast should we go versus how slow should we go?
Yeah.
And we actually did an exercise a couple of months ago where one of the questions that we asked ourselves independently and wrote answers down to was, what would going too slow look like, and what would going too fast look like?
Nice.
And we each answered those questions and then came together and kind of compared answers and have found a really good, for now, a really good balance to that. Yeah. And so I guess to answer your question a little bit more directly, as we have, like you mentioned, we have 3 businesses in our portfolio right now. None of them are at the point where if Tyler and I both were to disappear, those businesses could continue to operate without a hitch.
Totally.
They wouldn't die.
Yeah.
But there would be growing pains for the people that were left because of how involved we still are.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 ways that you can eliminate that bottleneck. There is, you can find a person to come in and do everything that we're doing and do it better.
Yeah.
And then the other way that you can eliminate that bottleneck is we can continue to do what we're doing, but we can delegate and create systems better with the people that we already have in place.
Nice.
And so it's trying to do both of those things in tandem. And again, like I always go back to the primary focus being working with good people. And so with all 3 of those businesses, we're currently looking for who would be the right persona to come in and help us take this business levels beyond where it is now.
Yeah.
And that persona has to see this opportunity as a better opportunity than what they have or what they could find if they were to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
When I think about partnerships, I go back a lot to the idea of like raising each other's ceilings, right? Nobody should be raising the other. In a partnership, you shouldn't be raising your partner's ceiling significantly higher than they're raising yours. Both of your ceilings should be going up at the same time and at the same rate.
Totally.
And that's what creates a successful opportunity. That's what creates a successful partnership in which everybody is happy. Everybody is satisfied with the fact that you're doing something together.
Yeah.
So a long-winded way of saying we are trying to go as fast as possible responsibly. And what that means for us in this year is we will hopefully start or acquire at least 2 other businesses and add them to the portfolio.
Nice.
By the end of this year. And I think whether those are large acquisitions, medium-sized acquisitions, or startups that we just put a little money in and try and start something from scratch, that's where the responsible part of it comes in, and weighing all of the pros and cons to all of that and making sure that none of our current endeavors are getting neglected, but that we're also nowhere near a standstill, so to speak.
No, I think that's smart. Yeah, finding that balance, but pushing each other and you got to have that dynamic in a partner. Like you got to have, different skill sets and different kind of, operate on the same frequency, but have kind of different, push and pull. On
for sure
on different things. Because then you can balance each other out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
When you look at other successful entrepreneurs or business owners or people you've either seen or know personally or kind of admired from afar, what are some of the traits that you feel like those people embody?
Yeah, really good question. I think, and again, this kind of goes back to a lot of what went into naming off season and the branding around it. Like all of the questions that you're asking kind of go back to why we chose the name that we did and all of that. Because I think that the best answer I could give to that question is that everyone that I kind of admire from an entrepreneurial standpoint, they all worked incredibly hard. But if you were to ask them about it, they enjoyed building what they've built. Doesn't mean they had fun. Does not mean it was not stupid hard. Does not mean that they did not have nights where they locked their office door and cried. Does not mean that they didn't have days where they punched holes in the wall.
Totally.
But if you were to ask them if they enjoyed what they've built, the people that I admire and the people that I have talked to who are entrepreneurs, who I would say I look up to, I think all of them would say that, yes, they enjoyed that struggle and that process. At least enough that they continued to do it.
Totally.
Right. So that's like the biggest thing for me. And that's the biggest barometer on, am I in the right place in my life right now? Is I ask myself on both the hard days and the good days, the days where we sign new clients and the days where everything falls apart. You got to ask yourself, that could be a morning and an afternoon.
No doubt.
That sometimes is a meeting at 10 o'clock and a meeting at 10:30.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, I ask myself, am I still enjoying this? At the highest level, am I still enjoying it? And for now, the answer is still yes. So that I think is what I have most admired and what I most wanted. When I looked at those who have done this before, those who have been successful that I know personally and who I've admired from afar.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like you've gotta find a way to embrace the grind. Like you gotta.
Exactly.
It sucks at times, most of the time.
Exactly.
But you've got to find a way to just like embrace it, put yourself in a position where you just. There's really no other option than to just push through. And put in the time.
And every calendar year I have this goal. I'm a words guy. I'm big on words. And so I have this goal of kind of choosing like a focus phrase for off season for the calendar year. So last year, that was start somewhere. That was the focus phrase. Right. And this year it's do the work. Because we knew, and I think I knew specifically, like January 1 came and it was like, this is the year that's going to make or break everything, right? If by December 31st, things are not looking up, then conversations are going to have to be had with my wife, with Tyler, with his wife, with our parents. Like, what are you doing is the question they're all going to ask if things are not trending in the right direction.
100%.
And if we want things to trend in the right direction, then we have to, like you're saying, embrace the grind. We have to do the work. On the days that we don't want to, on the days that things kind of suck, we have to do the work. And so that's the phrase that I'm trying to repeat to myself as much as possible this year is just do the work. Just put it in. Put in the time. Put in the effort. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think, mantras are things that we can like reflect on and actually drive us and motivate us and reminders of what we need to do.
And why we're doing things and, everything. Right. And and I love with the business that you built, right? Keep Nature Wild. That was baked into every single piece of, every piece of apparel, every sticker, everything had that reminder of what are you doing and why are you doing it, which I think is awesome, right? And off season doesn't quite have that with the name. I think it can, especially if you can relate to it the way that I personally do. But Keep Nature Wild is a business that, and not just because you're an Arizona native, and not just because it was so near and dear to my heart, just because I love the earth and I love nature, but I just think it was amazing that you were able to find a name that can remind you and everyone who touches that business what we're doing and why we're doing it. Right? It's such a unique thing to be able to wake up in the morning and put a shirt on and a hat on and open up and have your desktop background be like a constant reminder of why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like mantras and anything that you can do to kind of remind yourself of that, I think is huge. And if you aren't able to find those mantras with what you're doing in your life, then I think, at some point it's probably time for a reality check a little bit too of like, how can I get that?
Totally.
Yeah,
I might need to shift things or change it. If you can't find that thing that really inspires you or motivates you or drives you, it's like if you're kind of always searching for it or, I think intuition is powerful. And usually if at least in my case, when it's like you just keep trying to find that clarity and it doesn't come, it's like, oh, maybe it's time to think about this differently or shift my perspective or try to see it differently, or even just completely like, all right, let's shift gears and go over here.
Absolutely
Good. I love it. I think there's such a I think sports, like those motivations you talked about, getting up at on Saturday mornings and putting in the reps and I think it's like without a purpose, without a clarity, at least of I'm doing this for this, a clear goal, a clear outcome, like I'm committed to this goal and seeing this through. Like you might do it a few Saturdays and then go play with your friends or do whatever.
Exactly.
I think it's the same in business. It's like that clarity of this is my purpose. This is what I'm committed to creating. I know for me, like when I'm kind of like wanting, or even the difference of just like wanting it to happen or desiring it versus like, no, I'm committed to this.
Right.
Just like everything shifts. Yeah. Everything changes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, one of the things that I've learned over the last 12 months is just how awesome a regular job can be in a lot of ways.
Doubt,
right? Like it might sound kind of dumb to some people to even say that, and I am never one that's gonna preach that like entrepreneurship is for everyone, and I don't even know yet if it's for me long term, right? Because like you learn,
we all question it on a daily basis for sure.
Yeah, but you learn exactly what you're saying. Like if you're trying to do this just because you think the flexibility is gonna be cool, or just because you think the money's gonna be great, you're going to find yourself realizing how cool a W-2 job is really soon.
Yep.
And
wait, you mean you can leave and not think about the work that is sitting on your desk?
Yeah, exactly. Whoa. Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so, to be successful as an entrepreneur, I think that is, you have to find something that's going to allow you to be truly committed to it, because that day is going to come really fast. That day 100%. Came really fast for me, where it was like, man, my job was great. And I love the people I work with. And till the day I die, I will say the job I left was an amazing opportunity and an amazing job. But I am so committed to what I'm doing now. And I just think that what the future holds is so much greater for me and for my family that I'm willing to commit to it. I'm willing to put the work in, even though I know what I left behind and what
for sure
what the pros were to what I left behind.
Yeah.
So
100%. Dude, I love it. We have a question we ask every guest on the show.
Cool.
Doesn't need to be a short answer. We can talk about this topic but the question is, what role has kindness played in building your success?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love it. And the word kindness will always make me think of my mom, like before anything else, right? Like that is, and so the role it's played in my success is that from the day I was born until this very moment, my mom is the kindest human being that you will ever get the chance to meet. And you can see I'm getting a little emotional talking about it, so I'm probably not going to send the link to this podcast to her but so again, like I was nurtured, I was raised by kindness, and I try really hard in the relationships that I make to show a fraction of that kindness. And my wife also is an amazingly kind human being. And so it's inspiring to be surrounded my whole life, the people I've spent the most amount of time around, to be surrounded by that level of kindness checks you a lot. It keeps you in check every single day. And sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes that's hard. It's hard to display kindness, and it's hard especially to display kindness to people who don't necessarily reciprocate it to the same level.
For sure.
Which I've seen honestly more in my wife and my mom's life than in my own, because they display kindness at such a high level that it's impossible for anyone to reciprocate it back at the same level. And so, like, I really strive in every relationship that I make, every conversation I have, to relate to a person in a way that they know that when you need something, like, I'm someone you can call, right? I'm someone you can ask. And that has, I think, just opened doors to success, both in my personal life and in business as well.
Yeah.
And I hope that it will open even more doors, when you look towards the future, that people will be drawn to Offseason because of what we're building, B, drawn to Offseason because of the type of people that we work with and the type of people we choose to associate with, and C, because they'll know that the person at the top of the org chart, so to speak, which, is me and my partner, is someone who will care about them more than the other way around, more than the other direction. Every person that we hire, every person that we bring in, I want them to know that I care about them more than they care about me. And that will always be my mindset.
Yeah.
And I just, it's a fingers crossed kind of thing that pays off, right? And that it doesn't have the opposite effect. But if it does, I'm not going to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's always that fear of, like, kindness is weakness, or you're going to take it advantage of, or being too nice, or but I think that, examples in my own life and every episode that I have of this show reinforces to me that, like, kindness is bold, kindness is strong, and it doesn't mean that you can't be direct and be clear about
no, not at all,
needs or what needs to change, like, or when someone does something wrong, like, that direct feedback actually is the ultimate form of kindness, because then they can improve and they can change and they can do the things they need to do.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. And again, like, thinking about the type of person that I'm hoping we attract to Offseason to work with us and work around us, those are all people who would prefer to get better than stay the same, whatever that takes.
Totally.
And so kindness, in the sense that you just mentioned, where, kindness can be directness, kindness can be blunt, kindness can come across as criticism if you choose to take it that way. The people that I'm hoping we work with and that I'm planning on working with for the long haul are people who will value kindness in all its forms, because they prioritize improvement, and they prioritize doing things the right way. And so in those cases, when you have that type of person, they understand that if they did something wrong and you tell them they did something wrong and you tell it to them directly and quickly, in the moment, they understand that's not a personal attack. That's them prioritizing in harmony with me.
Totally.
Because they know my priority is improvement. And so this person, my boss or my manager or my partner, whatever it is recognizing my priorities and helping me continue to prioritize them even when it's hard.
Totally.
So, and I think that, like, kindness comes in so many forms, and that is one form that I think it takes the right kind of personality to truly view that as kindness at all times.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, But again, like that's the kind of person that we're hoping to attract to us, that we're hoping to bring into the fold, that we're hoping to build with and do all these things with.
Yeah. I love it, dude. I think that's such an important thing, and recognizing who, that alignment and having that clarity, especially early on, because I think, it's harder to make those changes or to enforce those things or to shift gears if that's not at the core of the business from day one.
Yeah.
And two, attracting those people and having that mindset will just bring more of those people that they know and that they recruit to the team, because that's like, no, like you want to work here because of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that, that's the ambition. That's the goal, right? So, and when we're trying to lay groundwork for that right now.
Yeah.
So,
dude.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for like sharing your experience and like your connection to, like, it's very obvious to me, very clear to me that like these aren't core values that you just put on a wall. Like you embody them. You can genuinely speak to them, and you can feel that in your presence. And
I appreciate that.
Met for the first time, but I can tell that there is that intentionality and that drive, and that's something that really part of creating this show is to show people that is not only possible, but can and will be the people that embody that. The people like yourselves will be the people who build the most successful businesses going forward, because that's these core values and what people really want to connect with and have that as part of their work environment.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, work's more than a paycheck now, and it will, that balance will continue to shift with time. And so, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. This is the first time I've been able to kind of express a lot of the values and things behind just the name and behind, the small amount of traction that we've made so far, because we really are in the early innings on this, right? Totally. If not in the, we might very well be in the top of the first still. And so, this has been awesome. One of the more fun first conversations I've ever had with a person. So
no doubt.
A higher pressure get to know you conversation than most, with cameras and lights and a microphone.
Doubt, dude,
but it was a lot of fun. So I really appreciate it.
Dude, likewise. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities that we'll continue to discuss and talk about. And I think you're on a really great path. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think a lot of cool things ahead.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
I love it. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode, for listening in. Where can people find you? Where's the best place to connect?
Yeah. LinkedIn, I'm pretty hard to find because I have a very generic name, Jason Allen, unfortunately, but it's the one I'm stuck with. Offseason.ventures is our website. Jason at offseason.ventures is email address. So if anyone has questions or wants to get involved in any way, we are actively looking for good people to work with, and we seemingly always will be. So reach out, get in touch for sure.
We'll be sure to link all those as well on our socials and YouTube as well. So thanks again. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.